Hey, it's Sara Gepp from Close to the Earth IT Services at Apple Green Tech, and today we're going to start from scratch and set up OS X server. It's available in the App Store, and it is the system requirements are very liberal, so you can use older computers and set up Mac OS X server. It's really versatile. So that's pretty epic. Let's see, where's my iBooks? I'm just going to get the manual out. This is available at Peachpit Media, peachpit.com. It has server essentials if you want to buy the book, or it's probably available at your local library. So you can find it in the Mac App Store. I'm sure that you've downloaded it. And what I'm going to do is just make sure that my fresh copy of Mac OS X server is available. And then I'm just going to launch this. And we're starting from scratch. Alright, so I'm going to just turn my camera into a screen share and take a look. Okay, so this is Social Live, just to let you know that's what's going on here. Is this app called Social Live. Yay, that's what it looks like. This is how I'm broadcasting to a bunch of different places. Okay, so this is fresh out of the box, so to speak. It wasn't ever in a box. It was in the Mac App Store and I downloaded it. It's like around 200 megabyte install, very lightweight. And you can use it with computers that are 2007 and later. So all of the MacBook Retinas, 2007 and above iMacs, 2007 and above Mac Minis, 2008 and above MacBook Pro, and it's very lightweight. You can use it with older operating systems. It's pretty spiffy. Alright, so to set up the server on this Mac, we're going to click continue. Alright, cool, let's try it. Alright, we're going to agree to the terms and conditions. I'm like super fast reader, so I read all of that. And bear with me for a second. I'm just going to turn you around. Hi. Alright, just entering my admin password. And we're going back to the screencast. Yay. Alright, so the server's being set up on the Mac. Alright, so lesson 1, installing server. OS X Server 5 helps your users collaborate, communicate, share information, and access the resources they need to get their work done, whether in business or in education, or just your own entertainment value. Okay, so yeah, it's like really generous hardware minimums. You can even use it. Okay, here's the system requirements. So to run, you've got to run Yosemite, El Capitan, or later, with at least 2 gigabytes of RAM, 10 gigabytes of available disk space, or 50 gigabytes if you plan to use the caching service. So we definitely want to use the caching service because that's going to allow you to just download system updates one time. Alright, thank you, my friend. My friend texted me. And then you don't have to download updates all the time. Alright, so MacBook, iMac, MacBook regular, the aluminum MacBook, late 2008 or later, MacBook Pro 2007 or later, MacBook Air 2008 or later, Mac Mini 2009 or later. Sorry, I got that one wrong. I thought it was 2008. Mac Pro, early 2008 or later. Xserve. Okay, so let's view the errors. Let's see what happened here. Okay. Let's see if it'll just do it over again. All right, cool. So here we go. So this is what it looks like. This is the interface, and this is what you're going to see just fresh out of the box. So there's my computer name, internet. Okay, please don't hack me. My IP address is showing. Be nice. This is my airport base station. And then I don't have any certificates. I might have bought one like a while ago. Oh, I guess I did. For when I had the vintage store, Le Bus Vintage. Yeah, that's pretty sweet. It was a vintage store in a bus right on Lincoln Boulevard. It's in a giant double-decker bus. It's pretty sweet. Miss that place. So here you can set up services like a calendar. You can run a group calendar if you want to. You can run a contact server, which is pretty awesome. You can have your own email server. You can have a messages server. So that's pretty sweet. VPN, you can tunnel into your computer from anywhere. You can run your own websites. It's pretty powerful. It's only 20 bucks. So before you install OS X server, then you've got to meet the minimum hardware requirements, which are pretty lax. So instead of, you need 4 gigabytes of RAM to run El Capitan, Yosemite, and above. Really should have 8, but it's possible. But with server, you don't need 4 gigabytes, you just need 2. So for your lower bandwidth items like calendar, contacts, and mail and messages, you might have like an old Mac kicking around that you can use. Okay, so gotta make sure that you've got a reasonable Ethernet or internet connection. You have to make sure you have enough disk space. The more RAM, the better. They're saying that a production server could easily have 16 gigabytes or more of RAM, which, I mean, that could be possible with a Mac Pro or any of the earlier MacBook Pros or MacBooks, or no, I wouldn't do a server with a laptop per se, because it will go offline. You can use it, but you want it to be something that is like online all the time, like a desktop. Mac Mini would be cool. A souped up Mac Mini. Alright, so we're gonna prepare to get this started. Configuring and naming the network. Alright, so I'm just reading the book. Maybe I should have read the book beforehand. But hey. It's good to just try new things, install it, and let it go. You know? Hey. That's a smart thing to do. Does anybody have any questions? We've got this burner phone here. Phone number is, this is FaceTime or text, 805-816-3792. Cool beans. So, we're going to try new things every day. We're going to take it out of the box, configure it, connect it to the network, and start there. Actually, let's go back to the screen capture in a second, and let's check out Todd Oldoff. Yesterday, was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday I had like a screencast from Todd Oldoff going, and let's see if he has just like taken it out of the box tutorial, and we can do that together. See what's going on. Gotta begin from the beginning. Alright, so let's go to playlists. And go to server. Let's see what's going on.
There's this idea that in portraiture...
Alright, turning it around here. I'm going to take a look together. Todd Oldoff, he's like the guru. It's the server guru. So I really default to his information when looking at this. Server upgrade. Let's see if we can grab a video that would apply. Pre-update. Videos. Okay, let's see what's going on here. So his Sierra videos are a lot longer. Let's see what we've got for El Capitan server. Because you've got binding, you've got upgrade, install. This is pretty interesting. Here we've got a clean install. Install and setup. Let's give this a try. Some of these things will have changed. Let's see.
Hi, this is Todd Oldoff from toddoldoff.com, coming back at you with another screencast. And this week we're going to take a look at installing OS X Server for the first time. Now, Server is on version 5, and what used to happen is the versions of Server had to match the current operating system, and so you would have to upgrade every year. This particular version of Server, starting in version 5, allows you to install it on both Yosemite or El Capitan. So it's the first OS X server that does not have to have a paid upgrade. Now, Server in and of itself is pretty cheap. As you can see over here, it's only $19.99, which is a really great deal. You get a full server install. There are no limits to the number of users or anything like that. It is the full version, and so it really is a great value for the money if you just need to run a server yourself. And so anyway, so this is the version 5, and so what I'm going to do is go ahead and install it and walk you through the initial install process. So I'm just going to click on install here, and it's going to start the process of installing OS X Server. And so I'm going to go ahead and let that run. It's going to do the download and install, and once that's finished, I will come back and show you what it looks like. Okay, as you can see, the download has happened. You see I've got this open button now, so let's just go ahead and click on open. And what's going to happen, let me just put this down here, is it will run Server for the first time. Now this is the server install screen. And,
all right, so that's what we
I've only
saw.
got a few options here. I can choose other Mac if I want to, which will allow me to choose where I want to actually set up my server. You can see that it gives me the option of setting it up on this Mac or an other Mac with a name or IP address. And so I'm just going to say cancel here. Oop, let me just launch that one more time. Okay, now that we're back here, we're just going to say continue. And what
Totally
it's going
did
to do
that.
is ask us to agree with the software licensing agreement. You can see here that it's got all of the legalese here, but then there's this little checkbox here to use Apple services to determine the server's internet reachability. What this is the reachability service does a test to see which of your services are reachable from the internet. And so it's a nice feature that was built into version 4 for the first time, and it does a decent job of just checking your services to see if they're reachable without you having to be on another network or outside your network to test it yourself. Now, it has had its flaws, hasn't always worked super well, but it is something nice to have. And so I would recommend just leaving that checkbox there. The reason they're asking you this is because it does have to ping Apple servers in order for them to check, which means some of that information is being sent to Apple. So it's a privacy issue, and so if you don't want to have that stuff checked to see if the services are accessible by Apple, then uncheck that box. But as far as I've seen, it's the service is fine. They don't have access to your server itself. They're just checking the services. So I'm going to say agree on that.
I didn't read it.
And it's going to ask me to authenticate. And once I've done that, I'll just click on allow. And so now what it's going to do is start to install the service. And as you can see down here,
and we have that already.
What it does is it tells you what it's doing. You can see that it's looking for different states. It's preparing services. It's doing a number of different things to install server. And it'll take a little bit of time to do that. Usually right about where it gets to preparing mail service, it slows down a bit. So I'm going to let it finish its install, and when it's done, we'll come back and take a look at what it looks like once the install is complete. Okay, so here we are on the other side. As you can see, server has been installed. And once you get server installed and set up, you're met with this tutorial screen.
I did not see that.
So what Apple's done is done a good job of putting together some tutorials to help you get started with OS X Server. You can see over here on the side, they've got these various topics: how to share files, how to cache App Store content, provide a centralized backup, collaborate with your team. You got some Xcode stuff, managing devices, host a website, configure public access. You can see them all kind of over here. And so what you do is you can just kind of go into these. They've got all the little sub areas here, and what it does is
get our sub areas.
Again, here, what is file sharing all about? Lesson 1 walks you through how to set up file sharing, and you can kind of go through each of these little things a step at a time. And they've got some visuals there to help you walk through the setup. And so this is good. They've started adding more and more of these sorts of things with server builds, and so it's good that they've got that in there to help out. Everything that I'll do in this tutorial series will cover this a little bit more in depth, but if you wanted to have kind of a quick refresher to come figure out how to do something, you can see it all right here.
Where?
So let me just go ahead and get this out of the way. Okay, so here we are on our initial launch of the server application, and as you can see, everything looks pretty similar to the way it did with the Yosemite version of server, or server version 4. There's just been some cosmetic changes here in the middle. You can see we've got some bigger buttons here. We've got some boxes around things. The text is kind of tidied up a little bit smaller there. A few little changes to the icons. But otherwise, most of the services are the same. Again, if I just show the advanced, you can see here all of the different advanced services are still the same as they were before. And so this gives you the kind of the basics of it. Now what I'd like to do is show you how to do some of the basic setup to get us started here. Now you'll notice that my host name shows server.local. Now that's what it should show if your DNS isn't there. Now if you've done a complete uninstall of server, every once in a while your previous host name will show up here. If it does, all you need to do is go into edit host name, change it to server.local, and you can kind of start over from there if you wanted to do that. Now, I have found that come up every once in a while. Sometimes it's very hard to get rid of caches and things off your computer that you were using as a server before, so I just wanted to point that out. But we've got our host name, we've got our computer name, and then we've got our internet connection, and it tells us how many services are reachable at our public IP address. And then down here we've got how long the server's been running, the version, all that kind of stuff.
We'll change it
right here. And then our network interfaces. You've got the so that's the overview. We've got settings, storage, and access. And so let me just start here with these things. And I'm going to start here with the computer name. You can change your computer name right in here anytime you want. You just click on this edit button and you can change it to whatever you want, and it will add that, make that change to your local host name as well. And you can kind of set that up that way. I'm going to leave this alone, but if you wanted to change the name, you could do that. So I'm just going to cancel that. You can also check on your internet connection by clicking on this reachability details box. And what it does is give you this drop down that goes out and checks to see if your various services that you have open and available are reachable on the internet. And you can see it's doing the check right now, and it pings Apple's servers. Again, as we add services and get more and more things on there, then the reachability service will check those things. Now, what I haven't had a chance to check in depth yet is how accurate it is. I found that at times it's not super accurate depending on network traffic and stuff like that. So it's always good to test it yourself as well, but this just gives you kind of a good first run just to kind of see how things are going. As you can see, it's kind of chugging away there, doing its check and taking a little bit.
It takes a lot of time. It's really
But
slow.
we're just going to go ahead and let it run, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's finished. Okay, well, like I said, it's not always accurate. One of the things I do know is I don't have a public host name, but it still should pick it up by my external IP address, so it looks like it's struggling here. So I'm just going to let it go. Again, depending on how the servers are doing that day, you might run into this issue, so let me just get rid of that there. All right, now let's go ahead and take a look at changing the host name, because this will be an important part of how you set up your server and how you choose to use it. Because right now we just have a host name that is a local host name. That means it's only functional on my local network. You may want to have it accessible remotely, and so we need to edit the host name. So let's just click Edit Host Name.
We've done this before.
So what it's going to do is evaluate my network and get a feel for the different settings that I've got there, so I can configure. And you can see it's ready to hit Next. So we'll say Next. Now, this is where you choose how users are going to access your server and how you want to set your server up. And you can see we've got 3 choices here. Now, they have simplified the language over time, but let me go over each of these. The local network is only being able to access your server on the local network that you have currently. So while you're in your network, while your machines are connected to your router, you can access your server. But if you go outside your local network, okay, to another one, then you'll no longer be able to access your server. Now, for those of you that may want to do remote access, but you still have only a local network because you don't want to register a domain name, you can use the local network and VPN option. Now, this allows you to access your server on your local network with the host name ending in .private. So what you're going to be doing is setting up a host name with a .private ending on it. And you can also access your server using VPN, so that if you connect by VPN, then you'll be able to access your server remotely. Without using VPN, you won't be able to access your server. So that's another option if you want to just kind of keep your network protected and you only want to use, a VPN tunnel, which basically is an encrypted line going in and out to your server. The final is internet, and this is being able to access your server both local and remotely over the internet using a registered domain name. So that would be a domain name that you have set up with a hosting provider that allows you to access your server. So, something like, I have toddoltoff.com, and you might want to access it that way to make that happen. What I'm going to do is use internet because I do have that set up, and so we're going to use that option. But hopefully that helps you understand which options to choose. So I'm just going to say Next now. And so now what I do is I can change the host name and the computer name. Now this, again, the computer name is just the name that you'll see in the Finder when your computer shows up in the sidebar and stuff when you're in the Finder. So I'm going to leave that alone as server. But right here is where I want to change my host name. Now, for those of you that were doing the local network and VPN option, you're going to put in, server dot your host name dot or whatever you want to make up .private. Okay, that's what you're going to set up there, and that's just a name that's not registered on the internet. For those of you that have a registered host name, you're going to put in your host information here. And so, in our case, I'm just going to make it server.toddoltoff.com. Okay, and that's going to be my host name. You can also edit your network address if you want to do that. If you did that, like for instance, if I just clicked edit here, it brings down a drop down that allows me to edit some of my information, DNS server and all that kind of stuff. I'm just going to leave that alone, but it does allow you to set up your server's network settings. I'm going to cancel that because I've already got this set up with the network address that I want. So I've got this all ready to go. Everything looks the way I want it to look. So I'm just going to say finish. Now, what it's going to do is ask if you want it to set up DNS, because the server can automatically set up DNS for you that resolves to your host name. Now, for those of you who have a registered domain name that you've got with a domain provider, and you're going to still host maybe your website with them, and they're going to own the name servers, then this is a great way for you to set up DNS, because you want your primary zone name to match this server.toddoltoff.com or whatever you have in there, because this is a kind of a subdomain name. All right, this is one that we'd set up at our hosting provider. So you would want to go ahead and allow server to set up DNS that way. If however you're going to set up your server to be to do all of the hosting of your domain name, so websites, everything else, and you might want to change your name servers over, then you want to go ahead and skip that because you're going to want to put in your information yourself. Okay, so for most of you that are home users, you want to just go ahead and click this Setup DNS option and let it do it for you. So I'm going to click on that so that it starts setting it up. You can see it's configuring all of my information here, setting up the services with my host name. And it's going to go ahead and go through the process of actually making sure that everything is set and ready to go. And you notice already it's turned on DNS down here. You can see the green dot by it because it's actually setting up that service for me. So it'll take a little bit here to finish the process. We're going to let it run, and then we'll take a look at what it looks like when it's finished. Okay, so now everything is set up. You can see now my host name is what I want it to be, right? There's my server.toddolthoff.com all set up there. Computer name is still the same. You see I've got DNS down here. Let me just click on that for a minute. And you can see that server has set up my DNS, has put in my host name with my IP address there. Everything is set up and ready to go. And so I'm going to cover how to set up DNS yourself later, but I just wanted to show you that basically the server configuration did set it up the way I want it to be, right? There's my host name and all of that. And if I come in here and I say show all records, let's let that pull that up. You can see there's my primary zone, and that's what I want to have right there, is my primary zone being the server, because I'm doing a split DNS is basically what I'm doing.
So you can see it's a little
let's go
different.
Back up here to server again. So now I've got that all set up and ready to go. Now a few other things here. If you go into settings, you can turn on remote access if you want to use SSH. Now what I tell most people is SSH, only turn that on if you want to have it available. If you've got your Mac Mini hosted at a co-location facility, you probably want SSH on just in case something goes wrong. Or if you've got a very special reason for using it. Otherwise, I would just leave it off, because that is that's the tunnel through which a lot of hackers try to get into machines, and you know you'll see a lot of stuff in the logs that might freak you out. So really, if you don't need to use it, I wouldn't turn it on. You can see here we've got screen sharing and Apple Remote Desktop app. So that turning that on opens up the ports and everything we need to have screen sharing turned on. The other thing is using server app on a remote Mac. So if you wanted to access your server remotely and you wanted to do it through, let's say, a laptop, and you wanted to use this application natively on that Mac, okay, so that you're not going through a screen share, but you're actually managing your server using this app on a laptop remotely, you want to check that. So I'm going to go ahead and check that service because I do want that on. We have Apple push notifications here, and I'm going to show you how to set that up in a future screencast, but you could turn it on here if you wanted to do that. Again, I'm going to wait. You can also change the location here of your service data. So if you want your data to be stored on another machine, maybe one that's got more space on it or whatever, you can go ahead and change that right here. I'm just going to cancel because I'm okay with it being on my server. Across the top, we've got storage here, and this is where you can manage your storage. It tells you how much you have available, and then you can kind of drill into this to go through your different folders and files and things to set up sharing and all of that. So this just kind of lets you know what your storage availability is. And then we've got access here. Now access allows you to set up how you want users and who you want to access different services. You can see here I've got access, the default user access is either all users or only some users. So if I set only some users, then it has me choose which users get to access different services on my server. So if I wanted to limit that for some reason, I don't. So I'm just going to cancel it and put it back to all users. I can do the same thing for network. I can say all networks. I can say only private networks, only this Mac, or only some networks. So I can set it up however I want to there. In this case, I'm going to leave it as all networks because that's the one that that's how I want to have it set up. Now down here, I've got custom access set up, and you can see here for caching, there's custom access. And if I just come in here, I can edit that custom access, basically determining whether I want the caching content for clients to be on all networks, only local networks, or only some networks. And here I can also say serve clients with public addresses matching the server's network or on other networks. Now this only really comes into play if you've got two different servers functioning that might be on different subnets and that sort of thing, and maybe you want all users to use the caching server from a different subnet, you'd set it up that way. The way I've got it right now, clients on the same subnet are going to access the cache that's on the server, and I'll show you how to set up the caching service later, but I just want to show you that that's on there. And the same is true for all of these. And you notice here for screen sharing, let's go ahead and
they changed it though. They put the caching in the sister
preferences. I've got it set up for only some users, which are administrators or myself, and those are the only ones that can access it. And you can see here, again, I can say when connecting from all networks, private or only some. Again, if you've got a remote access that you want to have available, then you want to leave it on all networks there. I'm just going to cancel that again. Now, I can add other custom access services here. You can see for all the different services available on server, I can go ahead and add those, or I can even add a particular custom one if I wanted to for something else. But I just wanted to show you that that's available here, and then of course you can remove them by hitting the minus sign here as well. So again, we've got this nice access area that allows you to set things up. Let me just go back to the overview here. So that gives you an idea of how to get started with the installation of server and the basic setup. As I normally do, I'm going to go through each and every service on the server to show you how to set it up so that when you're done you have a good understanding of how server version 5 works. So that's all I have for this week. I'll be back at you next week with another screencast. Hope you learn how to do more things with your Mac. If you're interested in help in setting up your own server, feel free to contact me at todd@toddolthoff.com.
Okay, so we just did something new. It's going to be a step-by-step process, that's for sure.
Hi, this is Todd Olthoff from toddolthoff.com.
Auto-playing here. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Todd Olthoff. Alright, cool. So it's going down the Olthoff way. And sometimes it's helpful, even though I have played somebody else's video in my video, I think sometimes it's helpful to just, okay, how do I do it? This is like super complicated. We're out of our comfort zone. I am too. So, this is the way it's going to happen. It's going to be pretty exciting. What is next? I don't know. I haven't been to that chapter yet, but I actually have the manual on my iPad so I can read through a little bit more and get a better idea of what's what. I don't know where that tutorial thing went. They don't have that in the server High Sierra, but that's cool. Though there will be a way to find the tutorial. And something else to know when you're setting up your server, this is an Apple product. So even if you don't have AppleCare, you can call 1-800-275-2273. That's the AppleCare number, and you can get help with your server because it's an Apple product. So you've got nothing to lose, everything to gain. I'm going to do it too. I'm getting right out of my comfort zone and trying something new. Did I have a need for Apple server in the past? Yeah, I did. But I just used, what did I use to set up the Labus Vintage site? I don't think we had a website. That was like back in 2014. We just used social media. So I didn't set up a website on that server. But I'm going to now. I've got my work site, saragepp.work. That's an available domain. I can like manage the DNS and kind of like throw an A record on there, C record, you know, get some email, put an MX record down there and host it on my own server. So it's not going to take much. It's not going to take much at all. So let's try something new. Tomorrow I'm going to have another video going. Actually, maybe tomorrow I'm busy, so I might not, but I might get another video going about server. It'll be part 2. So yeah, I hope everyone had a great day at the Women's March or was able to participate in some way. And yeah, very cool. So I will be back on tomorrow. And if you have any questions, you know where to find me at Apple Green Tech. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can find at Apple Green Tech anywhere on the World Wide Web using those 3 terms. Also, I left a link to my YouTube. So if you have any questions, you prefer to use YouTube, just click on my YouTube. You don't have to like, you don't have to subscribe. That's up to you. No pressure, but definitely let's learn this together. It's free, and you know, let's just try something new. All right, cool. Well, hey, good night, and thank you for watching. Really appreciate it.